You're listening to the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast with your host, Bill Clanton.
And welcome to the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast. I'm Bill Clanton. And just to recap where we've been, of course, this is the podcast series that's documenting my journey from employee to entrepreneur. And a lot of recapping, because I've been at this for over well over 3 years now since I left my job. And going back, last episode we talked about all my years in the radio industry and how I craved the freedom of entrepreneurship. But of course, with anything like that, nothing comes easy. You got to put in the work if you want to make it happen. It has a lot to do with chasing potential versus chasing money. So, as I explained last time around, there was the 5 days that changed my life. And that was the 5 days I took a vacation and for 5 days pretended that I didn't have a job to go back to. And basically got up each day and ran things as if I were already out of my job and working on my own, gathering leads and just working, doing the work, doing what needs to be done, hustling, dare I say. And then we also talked about how I looked at my parents as great role models as far as their work ethic was, and my dad's ability to reinvent himself. So one of the things I had to do when I left my job, because it was a gradual departure, it was kind of an awkward thing because I had to hire my replacement. Because in order for them to make sure that that they could survive beyond my departure, they wanted me to make sure that I hired somebody who was just as good, if not better, than me as I'm leaving. Again, I left on very good terms. At least I think so. So I had to hire my replacement. So I had to go through that whole awkward process of putting out the listing and getting the resumes and narrowing it down to several candidates. And, I did sort it all out, and I found somebody who I felt had the qualifications to definitely step into my shoes. But it definitely was an awkward situation with me making my departure, but still hiring the person who would be my successor. But in the end, I was able to find somebody who pretty much had the skills necessary to do the job. And then what I did is I changed my schedule to being part-time. So I had actually given notice in August, and I worked full-time till the end of September, and then worked part-time for the month of October. And what this did is not only did it give me that gradual departure where I still had a little bit of that paycheck coming in, but I was also afforded that free time to continue to build leads. I think that, again, going to what I said last time around, any business without leads is a hobby. So I had to keep working towards that and building that up. I would say probably the most difficult part of that was as I was making sure that I was giving 100% still to my job, fulfilling the commitments to my prior employer that I had made to them. And that was that I would work for 20 hours a week, part-time for them, and still be on their payroll and still give them 100% while still building my own company at the same time. It took a lot of, we'll say, emotional intelligence. And that was keeping a cool head while still working for them. And I think that with anything that you do in life, you never want to burn bridges. And that's been my motto all along with everything I do. You never want to put yourself in that situation where the person is not willing to hire you again in the future. To what benefit is it to leave your job, flip them the bird, and then just say, I'm doing my own thing, I'm out of here? No, that's not what an emotionally intelligent, entrepreneurially minded person would be saying. I know it's a mouthful to say, But if your emotional intelligence is not at that level where you can walk away with no hard feelings, then maybe entrepreneurship is not in your cards. Because I would have to say the most difficult struggle I've had from a personal development point of view has been that emotional intelligence. Being able to keep a cool head when it looks like all odds are against you. Knowing when to dial back the enthusiasm when you're at the bargaining table. All of these play into emotional intelligence. And, I joke around with some people. I say, hey, put on your big boy pants and take control of the situation. Well, that is true. And it also means when you're in those situations, not getting angry. You letting your emotions get the best of you in a professional setting could make or break you as an entrepreneur. I'm not saying that we all have to be passive, submissive. That's not what I'm saying. There's a time and a place for aggression. And that was when leaving this job, the last thing I wanted to do was burn any bridges with people that I had spent the last 20 years of my life with, that not only did I work with them, but there were a lot of people that I worked with that, I watched their kids being born. They knew my kids. There was all this growth like a family. In addition to that, there was also the emotional intelligence of understanding that I made a commitment to still work for this company for another month before my official end date. And I still had to honor that commitment and work the amount of hours I promised them, even though they were allowing me to work in my own office, not even on their property. This is a rare situation. I don't think there are too many companies that would be that kind. And you know what? Maybe I'm in a rare situation, but I would say, and I said initially, this is not going to be a podcast about me giving you advice as to what you should do. But in this particular case, I have to say the gradual departure from the job made things a lot easier for them and for me as I made my departure. It gave me a month of time to work with my replacement and train him on everything that I did. He could shadow me and see everything that I did. So as Gary Vee says, doing the right thing is always the right thing. And this, to me, at that time was the right thing. But it just took an extra amount of discipline, which, I don't think there's anything in life that doesn't take a certain amount of discipline as we grow. So that's going to wrap things up for this episode of the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast. And we're working on getting these out every Tuesday morning to you. I'm going to be dropping in some other podcasts from here, here and there about just different random thoughts that pop in my head. So you may see some shorter pieces showing up in the feed with just some random thoughts. Remember, follow me on Instagram and you'll always get to see my random thoughts as I put them out as quote graphics. Next time on the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast, we are going to talk about that area that we often get stuck in, and that is comfort zone. Yes, we can all definitely think of that one moment where we were considering that we were in that comfort zone and how we had to break free of it. Also, we'll be talking about growing a thick skin and a backbone and knowing when to say no. So we'll be talking about that in the next episode of the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast. This has been episode number 3. And if you're catching this as a first time around, go back, give a listen to the introduction in episodes 1 and 2. And remember, follow me on all the social networks. On Instagram, Bill Clanton Biz. That's B-I-Z. On Twitter, Bill Clanton Biz. On Facebook, find my page for my company at WWN Interactive on Facebook. If you have a question, if you have a topic that you'd like to see me discuss on here, and maybe you want to come on as a guest, I'm looking for guests to come on. If you went from being an employee and you are now an entrepreneur, I want to talk to you. I want to know your story. So direct message me, hit me up on Instagram. Again, that's Bill Clanton, Biz, B-I-Z. And just look for me on Instagram, direct message me, follow me, check out my images. And until next time, I'm Bill Clanton. We'll talk to you soon.
This has been the Employee to Entrepreneur podcast, a production of WWN Interactive.